Welcome to episode 15 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history by a 17 Laws guy. It's November 15, 1966. In Sydney, administrators from across the South Pacific sit down with a simple, audacious idea: give Oceania its own voice and seat at the table. The Oceania Football Confederation, or OFC for short, is born. For decades, football in the Pacific was stitched together by tours, invitation tournaments, and colonial-era associations. New Zealand and Australia played regular trans-Tasman matches. Polynesian and Melanesian islands organized locally and sent teams to regional games, like the South Pacific Games, but there was no confederation, no dedicated route to FIFA competitions, and no home for development tailored to island realities, distance, cost, and tiny populations. By the mid-1960s, and on the margins of the Tokyo Olympics in 1964, administrators from Australia and New Zealand compared notes with sympathetic FIFA figures, not least its president Sir Stanley Rouse, and like-minded island FAs. The argument was simple. If CONCACAF could knit the Caribbean and Central America together, why couldn't Oceania? Scattered, yes, but full of footballers. The logic was threefold. 1. Representation in world football with a seat at the table and not as a subcommittee of Asia. 2. A regional calendar for both youth and senior. And 3. A structure for development grants, coaching courses, and refereeing pathways that made sense for islands separated by ocean and airfare. So on this day, November 15 in 1966, OFC was formally constituted. It started small. Australia and New Zealand as anchors, with Pacific associations aligning over the next years, but the intention was big: scheduling, standards, development money, and crucially, World Cup access. In the years that followed, other Pacific associations joined as they formalized nationally: Tahiti, New Caledonia, Solomon Islands, Vanuatu, Samoa, and American Samoa, Tonga, Cook Islands, Kiribati, Tuvalu, Papua New Guinea, and Fiji. FIFA presidents and development chiefs across eras used OFC as a testbed for football for all investment. Goal projects, technical centers, youth festivals, beach soccer, and futsal growth, and eventually guaranteed access to global playoffs and club competitions. OFC's early World Cup path was a maze of interconfederation playoffs. Often there was no direct slot. That produced skewed scorelines in preliminary rounds and famous outliers, none bigger than Australia's 31-0 thumping of American Samoa in 2001, a result that spurred reforms in seeding, eligibility checks, and later, qualifying formats better suited to competitive balance. Club football found a clearer runway. The OFC Champions League is New Zealand heavy in the modern era, with Auckland City turning into a continental juggernaut and regular FIFA Club World Cup participant. The gulf at the very top is real, with occasional shellackings versus UEFA or CONMEBOL giants, like this summer's 10-0 win by Bayern München over Auckland in the FIFA Club World Cup. But the exposure and the solidarity money keeps Oceania's club game moving forward. Beach soccer and futsal gave the Pacific its own lanes. Tahiti became a two-time Beach Soccer World Cup finalist, and Solomon Islands Kuru Kuru have been OFC's futsal standard bearers with multiple World Cup appearances. Now to Australia's long goodbye. The Socceroos were prime movers in the push to establish OFC, side by side with New Zealand. Yet the relationship quickly got complicated. In 1906, there were founding members and day one heavyweights. Even before that, Australia had sought membership of the Asian Football Confederation, AFC, but to no avail. In 1972, Australia resigns from OFC to again pursue AFC membership. And that leads to one of those quirks that we love so much here at 17 Laws Guy. See, Australia qualified for the 1974 World Cup in Germany through a special OFC/AFC route, while not actually belonging to either confederation at the time, or category, as my Tour de France crazy friend calls it, and a footnote only the World Cup can produce. Not getting accepted by AFC, Australia rejoins OFC in 1978. They dominate regional play for another generation and keep lobbying for a straighter path to the World Cup. With OFC's blessing, AFC's doors finally open, and FIFA approves the switch. On January 1st, 2006, Australia officially leaves OFC for Asia, unlocking regular elite qualifiers and the AFC Champions League for A-League clubs. After Australia, it became New Zealand's era, and the rest closing the gap. With Australia gone, New Zealand became OFC's anchor. The All Whites routinely win the OFC Nations Cup and age group titles. The football ferns historically dominate the women's side with stronger challenges in recent cycles. Club-wise, Auckland City or Kiwi clubs powers that set the bar. But the story is broader than one flag. Papua New Guinea's women are continental title holders in recent years and a growing force in the women's game. Fiji, New Caledonia, Tahiti and Vanuatu, men's senior and youth finalists. Technical levels are rising and exports to the French leagues, particularly from Tahiti and New Caledonia. So in Solomon Islands, there are breakthroughs across codes. They are futsal kings, improving 11-a-side programs, and a women's program that earlier this year resulted in a watershed moment, the country's first regional silverware. Samoa, American Samoa, Tonga, and Cook Islands, there are investments in youth, school programs, and coaching that have lifted floors, and the scorelines have started tightening. Across U17 and U20, both for men and women, as well as senior tournaments, the medal tables now feature multiple islands. New Zealand still wins most, but Papua New Guinea, Fiji, Samoa, Solomon Islands, and Tahiti, New Caledonia are showing up in finals, qualifying playoffs, and intercontinental berths with growing regularity, especially after New Zealand and Australia co-hosted the FIFA Women's World Cup in 2023, and which turbocharged facilities and visibility. When it comes to World Cup qualification, for decades OFC's champions faced a playoff. With the 2026 expansion, OFC has a guaranteed men's World Cup berth for the first time, plus access to the Interconfederation playoff tournament. On the women's side, expanded FIFA tournaments have meant more Oceania presence beyond New Zealand, with qualification pathways increasingly tailored to the region's scale. And let us not forget some of the individuals who have contributed to the beautiful game across eras and islands. From New Zealand, we have Wynton Rufer, a Werder Bremen legend, an Oceania player of the century. And today we have Chris Wood for Nottingham Forest in the Premier League, a mainstay and the region's headline striker today. Australia's OFC era alumni include 3 English Premier League stalwarts: Mark Viduka, with appearances and goals for Leeds in UEFA Champions League, Harry Kewell, who, also while at Leeds, was voted PFA Young Player of the Year, and Tim Cahill, who bagged over 200 Premier League matches for Everton, a generation that grew in OFC qualifying before the AFC move. Development isn't only boots and goals. OFC has quietly grown a refereeing pipeline, assistant refs at senior World Cups, center refs in youth finals, and regular FIFA assignments. The current example is Ben Akwai on the site. He's on the crew sheets at the FIFA U17 World Cup currently playing in Qatar, a visible sign that officiating pathways are real and widening. Past notables include officials from Tahiti, New Zealand, and Fiji appointed to FIFA youth tournaments and Club World Cups, proof that the region's standards keep rising. Oceania is the smallest confederation by population and money, but it punches above its geographic weight in participation rates, women's football growth, futsal and beach soccer, and the romance of national teams that need 2 flights and a ferry just to make kickoff. It's also essential to FIFA's promise that the world's game is truly global, while funding fixtures and now finally a guaranteed spot at the World Cup. That's all for episode 15 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history, the day Oceania planted its flag in the global game. Got ideas about stories we should tell? Email us at otd@17lawsguy, and please subscribe, drop a 5-star review, and share a link so more island hoppers can find the show. Tomorrow, November 16, 1991, and the first FIFA Women's World Cup match, China versus Norway in Guangzhou, Mali's historic opener, and how a century of women's football finally got its global stage. See you then.